based platform that learns, adapts, and provides personalized health guidance to users. We have partnered with a large skincare manufacturer, and we have products that are going to be coming out with them later at the end of this year. The main reason why I started this, and this is the second meetup, the first one was a way smaller group, maybe like 10, 12 people. We had at UCSF. It was more the technical, more deep learning kind of co-founder Shilling, Dr. Shilling on the MeetUp Two group. So this one's a little bit more, it's a little different. It's not as focused on AI. This one's a little bit more focused on health apps. Not necessarily reviews per se of individual apps, but more of looking at them as the categories and types of data that are coming out of it. The advent of Health Kit, why we think that's a great next step into the next generation of what's going to happen with these healthcare apps, and then kind of what the whole goal is to get like-minded people from different industries who are interested in health, kind of in a room, meeting each other.
Most of the apps fall into these categories. So I'll start off with food scanners. What are these apps? These apps basically, they scan food. So you're at a grocery store, you want to check out if this product is healthy or not. You can scan the barcode, it'll tell you how many calories you might gain with it and what's the problem with it. It'll even tell you which ingredients of the app is causing the issue. And then some of these apps even go on to even track your calories, give you a schedule of the calories for a week, for a day, for a month, set goals, and those are the kind of data you can expect to be gathered from those kind of apps. The other apps I like to talk about is pedometers. These are basically embedded devices that track your movements, track your steps, track your running, jogging, cycling. Nowadays, most of them are on the phone, so that questions wearable devices. But then nevertheless, these apps, they track your movements. So you can plan a run, you can plan a jog, you can do some cycling. They take note of all that. They can also calculate the number of calories you burned, the number of miles that the distance was. And some of these apps you can go on to even suggest a good route for you to take care of your exercises. Another kind of apps that more I call health maintenance type are the mind-based apps. These apps do not particularly deal much with health-related data per se, but then these basically give you like reminders a day. Take it easy, take a 10-minute break, take some deep breaths, listen to some soothing music, get away from all this traffic and stuff. So yeah, that's what you can expect from those kind of apps. Not many out there, quite a few people use them. Maybe everyone needs an escape once in a while. And talking about dictionaries, loads of apps like these, you can look up these apps for symptoms, for even off-the-shelf medications and stuff. They are good for common ailments, everyday stuff, but then when it comes to more serious stuff, not so advisable, but worth checking it out. But then the most popular ones that I find are the video illustrative apps. These apps include anything from yoga to gymming, workouts, swimming exercises, and a lot of stuff. So these apps, they contain a lot of video illustrations, nice images to tell you how to work out properly, what kind of equipment to use, how to use it properly, how much to use it, and even you can even schedule your workout sessions and stuff. Now talking about personal healthcare space. So this would encompass most of the categories, but there's a common misconception. When we talk about skincare, we talk about personal care space, it's often mistaken for makeup. According to me, that's not right. So there's a difference from checking any step. So right now on the apps, on the app stores, the most common apps you find are the ones that tell you which color hair dye to use, which color lipstick to use, how to do your eyebrows and stuff. Might be informative, but then not the direction that all of us over here are going for. There are some of them that do some sort of image processing, and they are more targeted for like let's say skin cancer or like sunburns and moles and stuff like that. So yeah, that's a basic app categorization that's available on the Play Stores right now. Be sure to check it out. So now let's talk about the data that most of these apps collect. So one thing that we need to keep in mind is this sort of health data is highly individualistic and discrete. Every person has a name, has an age, gender, height, weight, blood type, different allergies. This keeps going on. So we've got to keep in mind while dealing with health data, data cannot be aggregated that easily. Like it has to be per person, unique. We also got to keep in mind that the data is continuous. Things like heart rate, blood pressure, hormone levels, they keep changing, they keep increasing, they keep decreasing. You never know what happens all the time. So that's another aspect of it. But the biggest thing is it's multifaceted. So each person, let alone having their own variables, when I talk about the health apps, they might have like 10 or 15 on the phone. Each app giving like 10, 20 different kind of variables for one person. Imagine the dimensions of those. So now what do we mean by applying AI to this data, and like as an end user and as a consumer, what can you guys expect? So let me give you a basic use case scenario. So like let's say one day I decide to go for a jog. Midway of the jog and I'm feeling breathless, I'm panting just for 1 mile. But then usually like a couple of weeks ago I was able to run like 3-4 miles without breaking the sweat. Was it because of the coffee I had yesterday night, or was it because I was awake till 3 AM? I can just jump into the conclusions, but I never know what's the actual answer. That's why we need this. I need something that tells me why, exactly, when, because of what this happened. And this is the stream that we're looking to go into nowadays. Talking about a step in the right direction, Apple Health Kit. So right now, the Apple Health, the app is the default app on all the new iPhone devices, and it's promoted to the iOS 8 and SDKs. So as of now, it's just a dashboard. It's like a centralized repository of data. Apple, this allows the other third-party apps. They can be other apps to detect your sleep, detect your movements, wearable apps too. They can use that API in order to communicate with the Apple Health for some data exchange between them. So how this works is once you log in the first time for the app, you can set up your medical ID, and at that instant it just asks you for your name, age, date of birth, blood type. That's about it, more or less, and it creates something called medical ID. So what this aims to do is this aims to be a precursor to the electronic health records. I'll talk about that more in the next slides. So how these apps communicate with Apple Health. So according to Apple, they say that none of this data is going to be duplicated. They say that it's not going to be on the cloud. I guess we can believe them. But what about the other apps? Because it's not only that Apple are taking data from the other apps. This is a platform for other apps to get data from Apple Health too. So can you trust the other apps? Are you willing to do it? And if it's medical information, it is pretty sensitive. So that is one step, even though it's in the right direction, but a lot of things to take care of before this goes public or it becomes industry standard. So right now, the main reason why all of you are in this room is because of this. This is what we tend to achieve. So, like I want a medical app on my phone. I should be able to book appointments, cancel appointments, check medications when they're expiring, prescriptions, inventory, even for the whole family. So basically, it should be the one-stop shop. I should get everything over there instead of going to like 10, 15, 20 different kind of apps. Everything should be available over there. Right now, Apple and Flip are doing a good job. Not get close to achieving that, but then maybe the next update, you can never know. So yeah, as you can see, there are quite a few of these organizations, My Clinic, Health System, Stanford, they've all done a lot of research with Apple Health. And in one way, it is good to see that's happening. They are accepting it as a standard. I feel that this is a good way to go about it, and this should improve and help us reach that goal very soon. And if you guys have any questions, let me know.
I forgot to say that we're also looking at the questions on Twitter, so if you hashtag SF, AI, and health, we can definitely answer any questions you don't want to say verbally. And this is about the group, so this is not just about the presentation, but in the future, you can always say questions or comments, because I'll throw it up there at the end. I want to just have it open for a discussion about how you'd like to see the meetup, but if you have any questions about the presentation, let's take it back.
I have two questions. So the first one is, I'd like your take on why you consider health information sensitive. And there's a number of different ideas about that, but I'd be interested in hearing your version. The second question is, why is the health kit seems to be getting adoption so fast when
sensitive. I don't know about you, but then I wouldn't want to let other people know my weight, my blood type, my allergies and stuff like that. Any chronic diseases I might have, those could be considered as sensitive information. It's not good in the wrong hands.
You think because of the potential for discrimination, like employment and things like that?
That could be a reason. Yeah. And then talking about the better success of Apple, so I would take it to the user base right now. Maybe when Google and Microsoft launched theirs, right now there's a better spread of the health and fitness concepts than it was that time. And talking about so there you go.
That's a question.
So within that ecosystem, in terms of machine learning and AI, is that going to be a separate category? It's going to be able to grab those open APIs and then massage the data in the back end and then report it back out, or will it sit inside the different silos?
So basically, all the data are in the silos right now, and they are kind of rotting over there. Like no one knows what to do with them, and if they do know what to do with them, not too much. So I think that's where AI and machine learning would have a part in it.
Within the individual silos, or outside of the silos?
I'll answer that if you want from my perspective.
Yeah, go on.
It's my work. So if you're really interested, the leading company in the space is called Analytic, and they're trying to boil the ocean. They're partnering with every data source in the world they can find to use state-of-the-art machine learning, lots of different tools that we have, to try, and when I say everything, I mean they're partnering with the American Heart Association, American Lung Association. They want to look at our clinical records. They want to look at the notes that the doctors and the clinicians put in about us to try and make diagnoses. Others in this space are focusing on a single sensor and going and creating a whole new data set of research to be able to go do the type of diagnostics that they want to do. Some of those sensors are new sensors. Some of them are just state-of-the-art versions of things that were developed when medicine first was invented. So, as an example, the stethoscope. It was invented in the late 1800s, and now it's gotten to where there's one stethoscope in the world that has almost twice the bandwidth of any other stethoscope that's out there.
So it sounds like you're saying both that it'll be within the vertical stacks as well as across the
Absolutely correct. It's going to be. There was a seminal event on deep learning. Excuse me for stealing.
No. This is exactly why we're here, is to share ideas.
At Stanford, that an organization called VLab put on Virtual Lab, which is a partnership between MIT and Stanford. And it was back in September. It was on deep learning. Steve Jurgensen was the moderator of the event. And he made a number of very interesting points. I recommend anybody that's interested in this world of AI, just Google VLab deep learning and check out that event. But one of his points was that if you think it's magical and you're looking at it today, it was probably enabled by deep learning. And I'll take it a step further. It's not deep learning, it's state-of-the-art machine learning. Because in what we're doing, we could only get to roughly 90% accuracy with our sensor using deep learning. And we added one more method and took it to 98% and it's published in peer review. So this is a really interesting new world that we're all entering as citizens of the Earth. Forget about thinking about writing an app. So I agree with what was said about all the types of apps that are up there, but there was a category missing in my opinion. And the category that's missing is transitional medicine. Not my term, it's a term of art, it's an industry. There's some of the brightest minds in the world working on transitional medicine. So the opportunities are everywhere. And that was Steve Jurgensen's point, is that in this world of AI, we're finally, we don't know if we're at the knee of the curve. We don't even know where the knee of the curve is. And anyone who says they do, I'd like to hear what they opine.
To bring your entire answer back home, and his question was, is this, within silos or across silos? You said this is within silos and this is also across silos. I think deep learning has the most benefit across silos because it gathers different kind of information and gives you an ultimate prediction that factors in several different factors that doesn't include predictions otherwise.
So I don't want to disagree with you,
Okay.
but I will say that I don't personally completely agree with your premise, because on a whole, I think that where deep learning, state-of-the-art machine learning is heading us as humanity, it's exactly what you're talking about. But the low-hanging fruit may be with single sensors and not trying to boil the ocean, trying to do everything not to boil the ocean.
Right, so in terms of that, especially with EKG machines, especially sensing, I mean, what I'm trying to say is that I don't want to disagree with you, but then I also don't want to agree with you in the sense that I think it's breaking the barriers between these silos and merging all these different data sets is really where we actually find the most potential within the several kinds of data, and that's what Apple Health is really bringing to the table, is really merging all these data sets and bringing home a complete prediction as opposed to just, having, as opposed to just looking at one set of data sets and looking at one set of data sets for different kinds of people, which is what we have been doing with machine learning so far. So we're going to get away from that.
You're 100% right. Okay, I agree with you explicitly, but at the same time, just like you're saying you agree and disagree with me, I think that, and I'm just one reporter's opinion, that there's home for lots of people in AI that think that you don't have to go across the silos. There's lots of data within a silo that might be incredibly actionable, and in the healthcare arena, we're going to be saving lives, right? From
Can
single.
you give me a specific example so I don't have to agree with yet disagree and go on?
Yeah, just go look up how these technologies are being used in cardiac assessments. They're 98% accurate on single silo data, on single sensor data, being able to.
What is the end objective? So from this, are you predicting, are they going to get a heart attack? When are they going to get a heart attack? What is the end objective of this?
66% of all cardiac pediatric referrals in this country are a waste of time, money, and effort. It's that difficult for a pediatrician to differentiate with their trained ear between a benign murmur and a pathological murmur. So they all just put them on. In China, there have been 2 studies, one in 2012, one in 2013. The number's 90%. But far more importantly, every 3 days, a young athlete in this country dies of a cardiac event at a sporting event they're participating in, and every one of them had to go through a physical and were approved, right? So single sensor, being able to show green or red to the trainer of a high school team, this kid has to go for referral, cardiac referral.
I 100% agree with you in the following statement that for this particular data set, machine learning has not been applied. When we started as a company, we applied machine learning to chemistry data sets where, people were just gauging by, they were just gauging things randomly. So I 100% agree that yes, there are some low-hanging fruit, but then there's also the advanced steps of machine learning where we do have to apply some advanced machine learning techniques to bring data across silos into for a complete prediction. So I think
that's why I agree with you explicitly, because what you just said, I completely agree with.
So I think the conclusion here is that not all machine learning is being applied in chemistry, in biology, and also i.e. healthcare. So I think that is the end of it. That is what I'm learning.
I can't tell you guys, but it's being applied by Disney in one park already, and will be in all of their parks soon. This type of technology for contextual intelligence. Right, understanding what's motivating a 5-year-old girl in the moment right there in their park. So, and it's deep learning that's doing it, it's AI that's doing it. So AI is finally delivered.
Both strategies are fine to combine. You can apply machine learning to improve the accuracy of a sensor and then take this as a feature in a learning algorithm that aggregates from multiple sensors, and you come up in the plus.
Okay, so I agree completely. Again, I'll give one last example. So last year, measured in weeks ago, 4 people at Stanford, 2 doctors and 2 data scientists, changed cancer pathology forever. What they figured out, all pathologists for decades have been trained that when you're trying to assess how long a cancer patient is going to live, the most important data point that when you give that cancer patient, how much life do you have left in our prediction? They were taught to ignore all the cells in the margin around the cancer. Completely changed now because of deep learning or state-of-the-art machine learning. Because 4 people said, well, is there something in this data? So they're looking at radiologicals, right? Which is where Lytica started with radiologicals. There's a number of companies, Clarify, a whole bunch of companies are already beginning to do that. because trying to interpret a CAT scan or a PET scan, those are understanding the subtlety in the margin, literally. And the example I give is when I go skiing for a week each winter, by the end of my time, I'm doing black diamond runs because I used to be able to do double black diamond runs, and by the end I'm doing black diamond. But when I'm just trying to figure out what to do with my skis, I'm doing it at my waist. If I'm doing really well, I'm doing it at my knees. But when you watch the Olympics, they're all doing it between the ski and the surface of the snow. Domain experts understand the subtlety in the margin, and that's why Google pays $850,000 a year for a machine learning expert with wisdom. $350 if your lead is still wet on your PhD. Okay? Because it's not straightforward. We know what to do, but it's a total black art.
I agree with you. I think in about around 2005, 2006, I was working in a radiology lab in San Diego, and they were using machine learning to figure out if a patient was cirrhotic or not, from too much alcohol and drinking. And in the data that they could really figure out if this person, a Hep C person, was cirrhotic or if this alcoholic was cirrhotic. And the old school radiologists did not want to, take this. So I think there's also there's also a factor where as we're growing as a community and AI and machine learning is becoming more acceptable, that's probably one of the factors why this is still a low-hanging fruit and they just haven't explored a lot of these techniques, even in radiology, which is probably the most physical, most mathematical medical field out there.
So I have a question for everybody in the room. How many of you watched at least one World Olympics game this summer? I mean, World Cup game. So every one of those matches had 2 announcers to play, and at least once during every match, if not 3 or 4 times during a match. And he is a former world-class soccer manager. So he used to be on the pitch he's now talking about at World Cup. That's his caliber. And he regularly would say, the data is telling us exactly what we're seeing on the pitch, and it makes no sense to my gut, or to any other manager's gut. So here's a guy, I call him a legacy titan, because he's a titan that we all trust and rely on. He's a beacon to the data. He's actually giving us, those of us that want data, the actual data. But he's so legacy, he just still doesn't get it. He's smart enough to understand it is what reality is, but because he grew up in a different world. And that's where lots of opportunities are. That's why we're using a single sensor. It's a legacy sensor just brought to the extreme in technology, and seeing what we can learn about the human body with a single sensor. And we got a whole bunch of doctors that are crazy excited about what we're doing. And hopefully we'll pull something off. No guarantees.
So I have more of a boring question. But I think we all know who Ethicistance here is, and I know they have a partnership with HealthKit. But just wondering what kind of, I haven't played around with HealthKit yet as a developer. Like what kind of data can you collect with HealthKit? How does it integrate, or what's going on within Epic? Can you speak to that?
Okay, so talking about the data you get from Apple HealthKit, like so as I said, once you make the medical ID, you're feeding in that kind of data. But then you can, from other apps, it gets like you can get your sleep data. From like food scanners, it gets your calorie data, what you've been eating, like the different levels of the ingredients.
Clinical grade data in there, like EKGs, like clinical grade data.
No, yeah, no. Heart rates, maybe that's it.
Okay.
Heart rates or blood pressures if you use the other devices.
And you might see heart rate volume, HRV,
yeah.
So there's some other extensions.
Those ones, yeah.
At least if this guy has it.
Then that's it. Thank you. Oh.
No, you can just close. That's okay.
No, that's fine.
You want another question? I thought that was good.
Sure, that's fine.
So HealthKit had a clause there in the license agreement, if you read it carefully, that as far as I recall, require you to, if you use the data, you have to open up all of your data as well. And that is all in great. But a lot of the business models that they have in data science startups are around keeping at least some of the data for yourself. Do you have some comment on that?
So yeah, as I mentioned, like Apple themselves say they're not going to publish your data on the cloud, and they're making sure that it's secure. But then you brought up a good point, because if these third-party apps are gathering your data, because Apple is allowing them, that does bring up security issues. I agree.
But you're speaking more towards, say, if I was MyFitnessPal and I just spent the last 9 or so years gathering a whole bunch of data on people's eating behaviors, why would I freely put that onto the health kit to allow my competitor or potential other apps to leverage it, and or have Apple not pay me to put my data that I've gathered up on there?
Right, so talking about the business
yeah, so it's
built around the data,
and what's
often is built on keeping some data.
Right, and I think that's really interesting because of the latest thing that MyFitnessPal and 2 other apps got bought for over $500 million by Under Armour 5 days ago. I mean, I think, yes, it's still a gray area, right? Like, I'm sure the adoption of the users in HealthKit and Apple, just because it's Apple and you have this massive user base, they're going to probably figure out that model of how these people who have data are going to get compensated for the collection of that data and the use of that data. But I think it's still super, super great right now. But what's interesting is like the Under Armour acquisition, they just know, pure and simple, that having so much data, they may not know what to do with it just yet, it's still valuable. So I mean, throw on a few of those $900,000, really good machine learning people, and maybe you could come up with something that's going to help their business 2 years from now figure out what's the best clothing and apparel and direction to take their users. So I HealthKit it, but I think, I think that's on everybody's mind right now. So I wish that was a full answer, but it's kind of.
So your slide with HealthKit, was that an example of a platform? You're not saying only HealthKit, because folks are going to have a Samsung, Google, there could be lots of.
Yeah, they're going to come up. But HealthKit right now, it's operational and quite a few people are using it.
But is it the data that's important, or is it what you do with the data? To the clinician or the patient, it's the outcome.
That's true. But as I said, HealthKit right now is just a dashboard. They themselves are not doing anything with the data. So it's like a single stop. You go there, you get all kinds of data which other apps are giving to HealthKit. That's all you're getting from it right now.
I understand what it does. It's about what it's going to do in the future for those of us who are capturing data. In the end, it's really not the data. It's what you're doing.
I have a question for, I guess, anyone who wants to answer it. Is anyone here using or know of people who are using AI techniques other than crunching lots of data with machine learning? There's tons of stuff in the app, and the only thing I hear about, and not to say it was in the news, is we've got lots of data, we're going to punch it with this or that or the other machine learning algorithm. I'm just curious if people are looking at other types of data. If the answer is no, that's fine.
So, just to be specific, are you looking for different kinds of statistical techniques, or what? So I guess I'm not clear on what the question is and what exactly.
I'm just trying to understand what is the scope of AI intelligence, right? Other than kind of beyond taking lots and lots of data and crunching it through machine learning. I understand that. I understand the different types of applications, both within and outside Cyber. I'm just trying to understand if there's anything beyond that.
We actually had a robotics presentation or showcase just during the introduction here.
Okay,
right?
so robotics might be one.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to go back as far as thinking of expert systems still as an AI technique, certainly in coaching models and things like that, I think that there's an opportunity to use those kinds of techniques.
Yeah, but is anyone actually doing that now? Are they haven't seen any apps?
Something like Jawbone, they have a coach, so they're extracting that information. There's probably a little base of some sort. It's like if you've done this much, beyond your goal, then send out this kind of message. I don't know how sophisticated it is.
So there's a reason why I submit that the focus is on big data today. And it's not just because big data is a buzzword. It's because for what I call the godfathers of deep learning, they chose that when they made a breakthrough to share it with the world as opposed to keeping it to their company. And that's the change. So it's Jeff Hinton, Andrew Ng, help me.
Jeff Dean.
Jeff Dean.
Jeff Dean, who's the guy at
Yana Chen.
Yana Chen.
Yana Chen.
Right, and Jan Jolliker.
Okay,
So those 4 guys basically, totally independently, at least as far as we know, just decided to publish their breakthroughs. And because of that, even Google publishes. They don't tell us the actual algorithms, but the methods are completely published now. And we got someone from Google Brain up on at that event at Stanford, right? We got Ilya. So, fair warning, I was the chairman of the event. So, That's why. Because all of a sudden we're able to do things that was breakthrough. And now data scientists all over the world can learn from that and start to dream on their own. And if anybody wants to start playing, I have no involvement with this company. It's a company called Xdata. They've got a product called H2O.
Oxdata. Oxdata.
There's debate even in the company if the O is pronounced. So some of them, I've heard Schmidt call it 0x data at one point. So that's how long I've been following this company. But my point is, it's open source AI tools. And anybody can go, and the first time I saw it was when they had just hired a guy who was a physicist from CERN, who was one of the people that discovered Higgs boson. And because the Higgs boson data set was published, right in front of us, he went in 4 hours. The meetup was 2.5 hours long. He started an hour and a half before the meetup. And by the end of 4 hours, he had a better result than Nature did in 6 months of research. Nature magazine was published. That is available to everyone in this room for free.
So just to be clear, I'm not arguing that the emphasis on machine learning is wrong or misguided. I think it's great. It's a huge opportunity there. I fully agree with that. I'm just curious if there's other things going on in the space, or is our collective attention focused on it?
So,
if it is, that's fine.
I guess the question here is, what are some of the, I would say, shortcomings of machine learning that you see where the question specifically?
I didn't say there were shortcomings. I think it's a great,
Yeah,
very good opportunity.
I'm
I'm just trying to look at it. I'm just curious about the landscape of AI beyond this part, which I understand and see a lot of discussion about. I'm curious if there's anything else out there.
It's why I don't call it deep learning anymore. And that's all I called it for a while. And now I just call it state-of-the-art machine learning, because we're using more than just deep learning. Deep learning is getting us 90% of the way, 88 to 92% of the way, right? We're using other techniques to
Maybe we'll talk about short-term machine learning.
I think with deep learning you can actually use, especially with chemistry, biological, and healthcare data sets, you actually need a lot less feature engineering than you would, with SVM or several other techniques. So it's more automated, like the old school folks say. So I think it's not a shortcoming. In fact, we're advancing exponentially with deep learning, and these people did work on all of this stuff for several years and published it, like you said.
And 30-second tutorial of the difference between machine learning and deep learning. So machine learning, I've oversimplified here. It peters out.
Now, neuropsychologists and stuff like that, but it's not. You can't specialize that much. There's just so much information that no doctor can know, even his own little sliver of the medical world. No doctor can know all that. It's just impossible. It's just too much. That's why AI has really got we have to have machines do the diagnosis at least.
To the question about psychiatry, take a look at a company called Empatica. Right, Empatica. I'm working with an electronic dress manufacturer to put the wearer's emotion on her dress, on her brooch, on her clutch. And it was one of the 2 ranges at CES. So we are, Empatica is the sensor we'll be using for that.
Okay, so going back to the thing that you were talking about empathy, and also your question about other AI techniques that have potential, look at ELIZA. ELIZA, that was many years ago, and many people were convinced by ELIZA that they were communicating with technologies that we have available today. People are craving somebody to listen to them. There's lots of evidence that in therapy, just being listened to and the sense that you are being heard by someone is tremendously valuable. So there's a huge potential, I think, also for conversational systems that can offer people the sense that they are being heard and appreciated in some sense, even if it's by a computer system. Because some of the people, even who were using ELIZA, they were perfectly happy to go on using it. You can kind of almost think of it, as a structured journal. I mean, there's lots of evidence that writing in a journal where there's no other person, just to be able to express yourself, offers tremendous value. And this could be a way of kind of automating and drawing people out in that way.
One of the key issues is that a lot of the systems and problems that the health system is facing right now are driven by irrational thought. We have this concept of immortality when it's clearly not the case. We don't follow health evidence when it clearly shows us to take a path. Whether it's smoking, hand washing by doctors, So I was just kind of opening up to the group. Where do you potentially see that AI could have applications for addressing that type of irrational thought? Because the evidence and actions within the health system don't match up very often, which is dealing with a lot of the issues that it faces. So does anyone have any advice on that or comments?
Anyone here in the room ever written an app that actually caused behavior change?
Well,
I'm just asking, so that's the key.
Yeah, so, but ours is very much focused on beauty and skincare, not,
But I say that's the key answer is to your question.
But we actually ran a study. I mean, we're obviously machine learning engineers, and we ran a study with behavioral psychologists from Australia. They have a great healthcare system, Singapore, and also in California. And I think one thing we learned is that people don't want information about themselves, but they want to be told what to do, and they can only handle 2 or 3 things a day. And they want to be told, do this and do this. And the system, if they don't do it, the system should refresh and give them advice that accounts for their doing or not doing what they were supposed to do the day before. And I think all this definitely requires building new AI tools, but I don't think it's irrational thought. It's that people are lazy and they just don't follow schedule.
I actually like your percentage of healthcare money. That's what you made me think of as soon as you were saying that. And that's irrational. So that's why I think irrational is a good word for.
I feel like on a funny side, to lighten things up, if we can get people to stick to their New Year's resolutions every January, stick to like health regimens, that would, there's something there that, people will follow things for a time, but then how do we kind of keep that moving forward?
So
That's a simple concept.
Well, I worked at UCSD radiology, and there were people coming in with stage 1 cancer from alcoholism, and they continued to drink. So I don't know if it's irrational or several other issues. I think people are just people, and we're confronted with lives and several other things that is human made.
What I think is basically what you need is incentive, or a compelling incentive. And I'm from Germany, so I know how we stand with the insurance companies, that they use apps, or they have ratified apps, for measuring your running distance, stuff like that. And if you follow through and give them your data, they will actually decrease the amount that you have to pay on insurance payments, or will give you benefits in other ways, like upgrade you on a better, if you go to the hospital, give you a single room or something like that. So there actually is something, and that seems to work, at least in some parts, so to give a real incentive, and mostly it's a monetary incentive, but still, I think that's key there, because otherwise you can't really change behavior just because you know that it's better for you to run. You won't go running.
Yeah, and it's pretty clear, I think, now that the rationality is basically a tool that people occasionally use to serve other goals that are not rational. And behavioral economics has made that totally clear. And there's a lot of books now coming out, like Hooked, like Meter Ayal, have been doing some stuff. There's a bunch of other stuff on behavior change that's coming out in action design. It's exactly dealing with it. So how do you get people to do things that are going to be, to their own benefit? It's not rational.
Predictive analytics can help. It's the area of superstitions, the area where humans tend to believe cause and effect that isn't really there at all, and believe that there have correlations in, for example, their behavior and outcomes that isn't really there. Now, we all have a good shot at taking a crack at helping people with that, but I think there's a good potential right there. The what?
That's great.
No, I'm talking more like information helps with that area. Maybe not, if you can convince people. So there are still a lot of human factors to get by even on superstitious level, and people will stick to their superstitions despite the strong evidence to the contrary. So just information about reality doesn't necessarily help. But maybe a little bit.
That's a very good
Did you have
That's the reason
any
people like
ideas?
magic. Like magic show.
Did you have any ideas around this?
Well, I guess my perspective is more, I work for like the equivalent of the FDA in Canada. So we have all the data to kind of siloing, how getting it kind of grassroots, I think there's a lot of AI potential, but government can't do it alone, and it's a partnership. It's just such a hard industry to kind of get everyone on the same page on.
Jeremy Howard in Redding would love to talk to you.
So I think, sorry.
Question for you on that front. You say you have all the data. Is that just the medical data, or do you have this other behavioral data stuff that happens outside of hospital that can be measured outside?
So I guess a lot of the time we get aggregate data, and as kind of a national pollster, you're able to get all these data sets, but you don't necessarily, we don't have, say, the incentives that governments have are, we don't have the tools to be able to actually analyze it. We don't have the data scientists within a lot of government agencies to be able to read a lot of the data. So the data is not utilized effectively. But what we're seeing now is a lot more open data type initiatives that people start to kind of be using our data, but it's going to be a long process. Like some of our IT systems are 14 years old, like pre-2000. So it's better than hospitals.
So I think a great study would be to look at different behavioral, I guess, modification systems and see if people are actually changing their behavior. I think these different incentive programs or whatever would be a great way to see if people actually are changing their behavior and if it lasts over a long time.
So there are companies like Walmart that are actually doing that already.
So
the financial incentives, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but there's a lot of research in behavior change and adherence of different types. Some of it is based on incentives, but a lot of it is based on developing an emotional and empathetic connection to the person, just like I said earlier. So Wes Corey Kidd, his PhD thesis work, for example, is completely about that. Right at MIT, look at the work at Andrea Thomas's lab at Georgia Tech or Ross Picard. There's a lot of work on how computer systems can develop those empathetic relationships and get people to adhere to things that they wouldn't out of sheer logic, but they do because of their emotional bond. There's a ton of research on that. Little bits of it are getting into apps and technology now. So Empatica is one example. There's Ross Picard's startup, but there are a few others like that.
There's also gamification.
Right.
To work. That's actually fairly common now. A lot of these are doing one of these fitness band things. And there's a bunch of other ones out there. They use those technologies and it works pretty well.
One of the things that we, it's really easy for professionals, smart people, and everything to know what's best. And one of the things that we often lose sight of when we talk about people, changing and stuff, you're dealing with individuals with their own wills and stuff. And if somebody's hell bent for destruction, that's their will. I mean, there's nothing you can do with it about it. And I think that's something we all kind of have to keep in mind when we talk about, behavior change, people not doing this or that, or not behaving in a way that we would like them to. Yes, that, you're dealing with another individual with an inalienable will that you just simply have to respect. That's pretty much.
I think summarizing the past 50 minutes is that technology is the easy part and the human factors is,
Exactly. I mean, there's been technologies through the entire history of human existence that's benefited and destroyed, and that's going to be the same thing with the AI technology. There's going to be a lot of benefit, and there's probably going to be a heck of a lot of destruction in some way we haven't thought of yet.
Yeah. I think we can say is that everything falls into the bell curve. Everything. Every atom in our body, everything. SARS, everything falls into the bell curve. And there's people on the right, people on the left. Yeah. Thanks to the few people. Yeah.
But I think, to summarize what I understood, the Walmart's monetary incentive, I know a lot of startups that actually tried it and they failed miserably because at some point people don't care about, getting a $50 gift card or $100 gift card, but I think what he's saying here, the emotional, connection, I think that's kind of what's missing, and in my opinion, we still don't know how to actually integrate that into AI. I think that's the missing link in AI.
So I would submit that one of the reasons why it may fail at startups and might be successful at companies like Walmart is the marginal value of that $50 to the individual. Most people in startups, the marginal value of $50 is far lower than a Walmart worker who $50 is their week's wage as a part-time worker.
Are you talking pre-funding or post-funding?
These are post-funded companies. I mean, it's not about, because people just don't care. At some point, they just don't care about their cash they get.
Right, but if it was $1,000 for the same incentive that's being given $50 at a Walmart person, I submit that they might care.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
But how much stuff can you buy at Walmart anyway? I don't even shop there. You know, so even if they give me incentives, I'd be like, what do I do with that?
No, it's cash to these people. They reduce the payments they have to make for their health care. They lower, or actually they do it a different way. They don't reduce it, they penalize the people that don't conform. So they really, that's really where that's how they're doing it. So if you smoke, you pay extra for your health care. If you're obese, you pay extra for your health care.
I think, I hate to burst the party in short, but we're a little bit over time, so we're getting kicked out. So if you guys want, this has been probably the best meetup I've ever been to. So the after party's at High Dive. So if you guys are interested in grabbing a drink to decompress, we're at High Dive. It's White Break.
What did you think was the best thing about the meetup?
I thought it's great. I think there's like a lot of people from very diverse disciplines here, and it's great to just hear differing kind of opinions from both the machine learning crowd and from people who work in healthcare.
Oh. Thank you so much.
I loved it. I actually missed the presentation, but the discussion afterwards was so intense and so informative, and it was also had a lot of thinking involved that I still got really excited.
About this meetup? Well, I thought it sparked some great debate. Having an exchange of ideas. I think the difficulty when you talk about AI is a lot of people have it.
My name is Li Bian, and I just flew in from Beijing to San Francisco yesterday morning. I love AI because I think it's something that we can use to change human lives, and to me it's not just a set of technology, but it represents like how the human society is going to be structured in the future. In fact, I think one day when we have this whole new species of robots with very advanced intelligence, we will have to rethink about the position of human beings on Earth. And on the day when we are no longer the most intelligent creature on this Earth, or maybe there isn't a way to compare or ranking intelligence, but we'll just have a different species that's at human level intelligence, but with the different types of intelligence. How are we going to interact and accept this kind of species? So that's why I'm interested in AI.
I think AI has a lot of opportunity in healthcare. A lot of the opportunity is because of all of the data being unlocked, both siloed data and fast silos, as was discussed earlier. I think there's a lot of opportunity for AI beyond data analysis, however fancy. And that involves, healthcare is eventually about people. So connecting with the human side of healthcare, connecting with people, their emotions, their preferences, their likes and dislikes, their lives is critical. That's why you need a good doctor, because who has a good bedside manner. You also need help with your daily life in many ways. It's estimated people make 200 health-related decisions a day. Everyone who was sitting here in this meetup had just made a bad health decision. They sat for an hour. You shouldn't be sitting for an hour instead. Right? Without realizing it, we do 200 things a day of that type. So coaching someone through all of that and helping people live healthier is a very hard problem. It's not. I disagree with the gentleman there who said, well, we all know what to do, we're not doing it. We actually don't necessarily know what to do, and a lot of the advice is not actionable. So, and translating that really involves getting into the psychology of human behavior. And so I think the big opportunity is in combining the big data analytics that's going on with deep learning and other techniques with a deeper understanding of human psychology and human emotion, and bringing that together. And I think the comments you made about this kind of bringing those two things together were right on the money.
I really enjoyed the meetup and learned a lot, and it's really, really inspiring to be around people that are just so passionate about AI and learning about it. So thank you so much for organizing.
Thank you.